In the late 1800s, the small mining town of Black Hollow, Massachusetts, stood isolated between two frozen hills, hidden by endless fog that never lifted. The people here spoke little, worked long, and prayed often, but beneath their hymns lay fear not of God, but of what they could not see in the mist. Among them lived Eleanor Vance, a quiet woman whose beauty had a sorrowful grace. Her eyes carried the weight of the world, and yet her smile was soft, a fragile light in a cruel place. Her husband, William Vance, worked the coal mines beneath the town, leaving before dawn and returning after dusk. His clothes stained black, his body tired but his love unwavering. Their small white cottage stood at the edge of town where fog met the forest. The two of them would sit by the fire at night, talking softly as the wind howled outside. To anyone passing by, they looked like a picture of peace, but Black Hollow had no room for peace. The town's mayor, Thomas Harrow, was a man who hid his darkness behind a smile. His wealth came from the suffering of others. He wanted Eleanor, not her love, but her obedience. When she refused his advances, he turned to cruelty. Soon, whispers filled the taverns and churches. Eleanor curses those who cross her, they said. She prays to the dark, not to God. The miners began to fear her name. Then one night the mine screamed. The earth trembled as wood supports cracked like bones. The tunnels collapsed, swallowing dozens of men alive, including William. The screams lasted less than a minute. Then silence. As the dust settled, Harrow gathered the terrified townsfolk and told them that Eleanor's grief had cursed them all. She brought this upon us, he said. Her sorrow called death. That night, as snow fell heavy, they stormed her cottage. They dragged her into the woods, their torches flickering through the fog. Eleanor didn't cry. She didn't beg. Her eyes, cold as the winter, met Harrow's. "You took everything from me," she whispered, her voice trembling but clear. "I will take everything from you, and when the fog comes for you, you will beg to forget my name." The rope swung over the hanging tree, its bark black as ash, its branches clawing at the sky. As her feet left the ground, the wind died. The torches dimmed. The church bell rang once, though no one was there to ring it. By morning, the town was empty. Doors hung open. The fires had gone cold, and on every doorstep one black feather lay, glistening with dew, as if freshly fallen from something alive. No one ever saw the people of Black Hollow again. Years turned into decades, but Black Hollow never decayed. It didn't rot or crumble. It simply waited. Fog still crawled through the streets, slow and deliberate, like a living thing searching for warmth. Birds avoided the valley. The wind carried faint voices that didn't belong to the living. In 1892, Father Caleb Morton, a preacher known for his stubborn faith, came to Black Hollow. He had heard of the curse, the ghost, and the vanishing souls. He arrived with a Bible, a silver cross, and a torch burning bright against the endless gray. He believed faith could cleanse what the devil had claimed. As he walked the silent streets, he saw homes preserved as if their owners had only stepped out moments ago, chairs still pulled back from tables, toys lying in the dirt, doors swaying open. Yet there were no footprints, no animals, no sound except for the soft echo of his own heart. He reached the church at the center of town. The wooden cross above the door was twisted, the bell tower leaning unnaturally. Inside he found pews covered in dust, and in every seat a single black feather. When he began to pray, the air grew colder. His breath formed shapes in the fog, faces twisted and silent watching him. The flame of his torch flickered, though there was no wind. And then he heard her, "Leave them to rest," a woman's voice whispered from the altar. "They are mine now." He turned and saw a pale figure at the far end of the aisle, her long white dress floating above the ground, her eyes glowing faintly blue, her head tilted, almost curious. Father Morton raised his cross, but the flame died and the light dimmed. His screams echoed across the valley until morning. When villagers from the next town found his horse wandering near the woods, they followed the tracks to the edge of Black Hollow. There, half buried in the snow, lay the preacher's cross, bent in half, burned through the center. In his bag, a single note remained. The fog breathes. She is not gone. Her grief is eternal. The legend of Black Hollow might have faded from memory, but some stories refused to die. By the early 1920s, a wave of fascination with the supernatural swept through America. Ghost hunters, spiritualists, historians, all desperate to prove that the veil between the living and the dead could be pierced. Among them was Joseph Mallory, a young historian from Boston. Brilliant, skeptical, and arrogant, he believed every ghost story had a human truth buried inside it: hysteria, grief, or guilt. But when he heard of Black Hollow, a town erased from every map, a town that disappeared overnight, his curiosity became obsession. The fog doesn't lift there, one man said quietly. It remembers faces. But Mallory only smiled. The moment they crossed the bridge, the world seemed to exhale. Fog rolled in. They followed the overgrown road until the shape of the old town emerged through the mist. Black Hollow, exactly as it had been left. Houses still stood. The sign over the tavern swayed slightly, though there and yet. Everything looked too preserved, like a stage waiting for actors to return. Mallory whispered, setting his camera on the tripod. The first reel captured empty streets, cracked walls, and rusted lanterns. His voice in the footage was calm. It's as if time itself froze here. But as they explored deeper, Thomas began to notice things, shadows that didn't move with the light, a faint humming beneath the silence. He swore he heard footsteps behind them, but when he turned, something shifted. In the mirror, faintly, almost gently, the shape of a woman appeared. Her dress fluttered as though underwater, her head tilted to the side, hair obscuring her face. Mallory froze. The temperature dropped instantly. Thomas whispered, "Did you see that?" Mallory didn't respond. He just kept filming, the reel clicking softly. The woman moved closer in the reflection. Her feet never touched the ground. Her hands, pale as frost, reached out toward the lens. Thomas screamed and stumbled backward. The camera fell, hitting the wooden floor with a hollow crack. The footage from that moment, what little survived, shows the image shuddering violently before the film cuts to black. When Joseph Mallory's camera was found months later, washed up near the frozen riverbank, the reels were water damaged, most unwatchable. But in the surviving frames, one moment remains: the silhouette of a woman standing in the fog, her eyes faintly glowing, her mouth forming silent words. Words no one could hear, but somehow feel. His journal, found in the mud beside the river, contained the final entry. She waits in the silence. She sees all who come. She remembers every face. After that, explorers stopped coming. Even birds no longer flew over the valley. It was as if the earth itself refused to disturb her peace. Because Eleanor Vance was no longer a ghost haunting Black Hollow. She was Black Hollow, and she would wait until someone was foolish enough to speak her name again. The town of Black Hollow lay under a suffocating silence that night. Fog rolled down the narrow roads, swallowing the street lamps one by one. The townsfolk had locked their doors tight, whispering prayers behind trembling lips. They all knew what night it was, the anniversary of Edward Thorne's death, and the night the widow returns. Inside the ruined chapel, Evelyn's spirit stirred. Her ghostly veil drifted in the stale air, her fingers trembling with cold fury. In her hands, still stained with the illusion of blood, she held Edward's wedding band, blackened by age. The whispers began again. From the cracked, stained glass windows, voices of the dead rose in unison, low, mournful hums that grew louder with each passing second. The floorboards twisted. The candles flickered alive without flame. Suddenly, the chapel doors burst open. Sheriff Warren and Father Hale entered, armed with holy symbols and trembling resolve. Father Hale, voice trembling, "Evelyn, you must let go. This isn't your world anymore." "Evelyn, my world? You took my world the night you took him." Her voice shattered the silence like glass. The air froze. Shadows crawled up the chapel walls, taking the shape of faceless townsfolk, those who had watched her burn. "Evelyn, you all watched. You all prayed for my death. Now pray for your salvation." The doors slammed shut behind them. The windows cracked and bled dark mist. The men screamed as the whispers became deafening cries. The spirit of the widow moved through them, her veil spreading like smoke, cold, eternal, merciless. Moments later, Black Hollow's bell tower rang once, twice, and then fell silent forever. By morning, the town was gone, the chapel reduced to ashes, and from the ashes the faint sound of a woman weeping echoed across the hills. Some say on cold nights when the fog crawls down the valley, you can still see her walking along the ruins, her white gown dragging through the dirt, eyes searching endlessly for her lost love. And if you ever hear that soft whisper calling your name in the dark, don't answer. Because in Black Hollow, the widow still waits for someone to love again, or someone new to burn. If you loved this story, don't forget to subscribe to Lunar Horror Tale, where legends never die.